Hey, welcome to day 2 of Learn Code and Create, your online bootcamp that transforms you into a programmer in no time. So, I hope you enjoyed your yesterday's lesson and you've been able to assimilate it and also did your quiz. So in today's lesson, we are going to learn about HTML element and structures. So yesterday, we actually undergone the definition of web development and HTML, and we learned that web development is the field in which we build websites. And to build websites, it means we are dealing with the web. And the web also implies that we have to have some understanding of HTTP, which we said HTTP, HTML, HTML, and then the browser. And I also emphasize that what we have to care the most about right now is HTML. So because HTML is the language used in building, creating, and structuring HTML documents or web documents, so it is very important that we get a good understanding of HTML before we move on. Once you have that good understanding, you can care about HTTP and anything that relates to the browsers. So in today's lesson, we are going to focus on discovering HTML and then start to write HTML ourselves. So without any hesitation, let's begin. So as we said earlier, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So it is a language used to mark up web documents. So I gave an example yesterday by saying that if we had something like this, that's how it goes, and we put some text here as bold, the text ends up coming out as bold. Yes, that's how I wrote it yesterday. I am conscious of that. So, and the question you might ask me at this point is, okay, if you've never done this before, that would be like, so where do I write this? How do I see what it actually gives? So this is the question we'll start from. So the thing is to do that. Remember, I gave you some instructions earlier before the beginning of this bootcamp. I told you to go and learn a lot about creating files and folders. I gave you a lot of references and I will still point them out under this video right now. So what I would like us to do right now is to practice that, okay, in order to see what this little code will do. So let's go to our Windows File Explorer. So you look for your File Explorer. Depending on where it takes you, I would like you to go to your Documents folder. From the Documents folder, create any new folder by going through the contextual menu here, and you choose Folder and name that folder in capital letters Lance Course and go in the folder. So once you change the name, you just enter, you click enter, or you actually click on it and then you press enter. Once you are in the folder, I would like you to create a new file. So you can use the contextual menu, which is here, by doing the right click on any empty space, or you can use the new button right here and just say text documents. And I also ask you to go and make sure you learn how to show your files extensions. So here you can see my file extension is shown as txt so that I can be able to change it. So what we are going to do is to create a document. Let's call it web document. Let me call it a web document. And then we said the HTML, we said that the web actually defined a particular file type which has the extension of .html. So we need to set that extension, and that's why it was important for us to learn how to create these files, change their extensions, because we'll be doing this most often. So we enter and Windows will be like, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, you say, yes, I am sure. So as soon as we change that, you can see that the files icon becomes the icon of your default browser. So if your case, you are using Edge as your default browser, this will be Edge icon. If you are using Mozilla as your default browser, this is going to be Mozilla's icon. So if you double click to open this file, it should open it with your browser, and actually it looks empty. So what do? If you want to actually change the content inside, we have to open this file with any text editor. Remember, I also made you go and read about text editors. So in our case, I am going to use Notepad. So it is a lovely editor. And also for our consideration for those who have never written code and don't have professional setup on their machines, let's use Notepad so that we are all equal here. So I'll open it with Notepad because I want to change the text, which is the actual content of the file. So I use Notepad or any text editor to do that. And I'm like, okay, just once for now. Then when I open, it looks empty. There's nothing inside. So if I write anything like hello and save it, save the changes, and once the changes are applied, I can go and double click it again, open it with my browser to see if something happens. Ooh, boom, something happened. So you can see that it displayed hello. I just zoomed it here. The hello is not big, but naturally it is a tiny hello right down here. So basically the HTML document, as we said, not only takes these special characters, but it also takes plain text. So for now, we just entered plain text and then it gave us a result, which is actually the actual plain text. So now let's try entering these HTML specific characters and see what happens. So let me start. At the beginning here, I'm going to do B, and the other side, I'm going to do another B. And then once I make these changes, I always have to remember and save. So if I don't want to come in this menu and always do this, I can always press Ctrl S to save the changes. So save. So once it saves, if you are on Notepad, nothing special will happen to tell you that it saved or not. So do not worry yourself much. Once you press Ctrl S or you come here and say save, you should just move on and try and refresh. So if I don't want to be refreshed, to be opening, actually, let me do that. So I could be like, every time I open the file, so let me go to the file explorer. Every time I open the file, I'll just do double click and open. And if I don't want to be doing double click and open, I can keep the page open. And whenever I make any changes, I will just press on the reload page, and that will apply the new changes. So coming back to our HTML document, so with the little thing we added, we can notice now that the hello is a bit bold. It looks a bit bold. So if you want to compare and see what happens, let me say something before that hello. Let's say hi here. I am Nzubuli. So let's see the difference between this first line of the text, or this portion of the text, and the other portion. So let me reload. So we can see the hi I'm Zubuli is actually normal, but the hello actually looks bold. So basically, this is HTML's way of saying this portion of text should be bold. But there is something that just happened here. When I was about to add this hi I'm Zubuli, I did not add it down here. Sorry. So I did not add it. Let me pick the text. Pick the text. So when I wanted to add the hi Zubuli, I did not add it at the below the hello. So what if I bring it there? What happens? So I'll bring it and reload. Wow, what happened? So here, not only the hello is bold, but the hi I'm Zubuli also is bold, which we don't want. A behavior we don't want. So that's why HTML defined a rule that tells the tags to start applying their effect at a given point and then stop the effect at another given point. So what it means is it will tell the browser that if we want to make this hello bold, it should only start from this a bit before the H and then end after the O. It shouldn't continue there. So how do we mark the ending? So what we do is we use the same tag, but we prefix the last tag, the ending tag here, with a / before the name. Oh, I just used the term tag. By the way, that's what we call the tags. So these elements we take to surround text with in order to make the text become something or to make the text behave somehow is what we call a tag. So these are HTML tags, T-A-G. So in this case, so let's correct our mistake we had. There should be something here to mark that this is the starting tag and this is the ending tag. So the start tag tells us or tells the browser where the tag's effect will start, and then the ending tag will end the effect of the tag. And these two tags are usually also called the opening tag and then the closing tag. So I love to use the example of the brackets to compare these tags stuff. So here we could see this as, let me take the blue, as the opening bracket and the other one as the closing bracket. They are all brackets, but there's a little difference. In this case of the brackets, the direction. So in the tags case, a tag starts with a tag name. Then we put the less than sign, or what they call the angle brackets, so, and then the greater than sign. That makes one tag. And the tag can go with the opening tag and then its closing tag. And the closing tag also goes the same way, which is the name of the tag in between the angle brackets. And then before the name, you enter a forward slash. So this marks the beginning and the end of the tag. So the next thing is, when you are using the tags, you can see here, if we take another example, if you look at this example we had here, we can see that right after the hello, the hi, I am Zubuli actually followed. It did not go to the next line just like I did on the code here. I typed it and I went to the next line to type hello Zubuli, but by previewing the result, we can see that the hello is followed by the hi. What if I want the hi to go to the next line right on this browser? So I could use a tag like BR. So it is called BR. I can use it anywhere here. It can be before this or somewhere here. It doesn't matter. So let me make it here. BR. Then I save by using Control S. Then I come back and refresh, and you can see it went to the next line. So basically, there's a tag for every single thing you might want to do on your text, on your documents. So, but we might ask yourself right now, why is it that this particular tag actually stood alone? I did not say the beginning and then the end somewhere here. Yes, we have two different types of tags in this manner when it comes to do they go in pair or they go single. So we have what we call odd tags and even tags, or pair tags and single tags, anyhow you want to call them. So these particular tags start, but they don't get close, because basically looking at their function, they just operate once. They don't have a continuous operation, unlike the B. So some other tags we might look at when it comes to HTML. HTML documents are actually filled with so many tags. So it's not just the B and the BR. We might meet so many other tags. So let's explore what an HTML document should look like. A complete HTML document should look like. So if you take any page, let's take any page, let's say LCC's website here, and you decide to display the source code, you do right click on any space on the page and you do view page source. You can see that the HTML is being visible, but this is a lot of HTML. So you can see there's something here called doc type, another thing here called HTML, and then you have this all stuff, and then so many other tags with various names and so. And if you take any other website, let's assume I take Google, which is the boss of the web. Let me check what Google has on their website. So we do right click, right? From Google's homepage, I can now do view page source. So wow, that's a lot of HTML. Do not be intimidated by this. This is completely simple, of course. All right. This is Google. No, it looks crazy, but as time goes, you really understand why it is this, and you don't have to learn all this. Do not leave this video after seeing this. So basically what we are interested in is the fact that even Google has this thing here, which is the doc type here, and then the HTML stuff, and you can see there's this head stuff, meta tag stuff, and so on. And the other thing, if you check the end, you always see this body and then this HTML and so this is the most important thing. And my point is to let you know that every single website or every single web page actually contains a standard structure it must follow. Right, there's a standard structure it must follow. So if you take two web documents as this, no matter their content, they must have a particular rule that defines how the content is structured. So this same rule goes, but inside here, whatever the content is can change from one document to another. So that's what I want you to understand. So your concern in this lesson is to be able, one, to know how to write the HTML tags. Understand that some of the tags go in pair and some don't go. And believe me, the tags that don't go in pair are not that many. For now, I just want you to have this, and then another one called img. These are the common tags you will see that do not require to be closed. So you can already memorize them right here so that you know in mind, at the back of your mind, that all other tags might require to be closed. So coming back on this document structure, I was saying the only thing you might need to know is the rule, which is this part, this part, this part, this part, which is common to every single web page. So what are these common things that we have to enter? So it goes by this. You start your web document by writing this little thing, which is a doc type. So you write a doc type, and this doc type is actually to tell the browser that we want to use this or that version of HTML. So we write HTML in small letters, right? So we are telling HTML, we want to set the type of the document, basically telling the browser what version of HTML it should use. HTML started from version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, and then recently version 5. So the versions from 1 to 4, the way we declare, we tell the browser that we are going to use these versions is a bit different. But when it comes to HTML5, all you have to write is just doc type HTML. So now you may ask me, what happens? What if I don't put that? If you don't, nothing really too dangerous happens. Your document might just continue to work smoothly without any problem, but it will drag the browser into a mode called the quack mode, which is a confusing area where the browser is confused in which version should it use to interpret your tags. So if some of the tags are specific to HTML5, for example, the browser might be confused. Okay, should I use it to interpret it as HTML1 or 2 or 3 and so on. So that's why it is advised to always add the doc type when you are declaring your document. So after the doc type, you enter the HTML tag itself. The HTML tag itself. This HTML tag is like the container of all your tags. So it should surround all other tags that will come in. It's the parent tag, the parent element of your document structure. So under it, remember they work like brackets. So under it, we'll also enter a tag called head. So this is like defining the letterhead of your document. So we enter a tag called head, and that tag also has a closing tag called head. I always write the D instead of the A. So head. And inside this head, we need to enter something like title. So like we set the title of the header or the title that will appear on the header. And in here, we can write any text we want. So usually the text will be like hello or welcome to my website, or you are on the contact page, and so. Then we can close the title too. So we do title. We do the title. After the title, we close the head. So I did close the head before closing the title, just to show you that the title exists inside the head. Then after the head, you can now enter another tag called the body. So this body part of the HTML document contains any visible content you want the users to see. So visible content. Let me write it in Latin, visual. So this is whatever you want the users to see on your web pages. Then we close that body tag here. So in general, this area will contain so many things. And then after that, we can now match the HTML and close the HTML. So now you understand why when we checked Google's page, we saw that in the end we had these two. At the beginning we had these two as well. And also this part, it cannot be ignored. So when we look at the page, an HTML document like this, you might notice this pattern here, this area. So this matches what I underlined here. And you can also notice this little pattern here, which matches this area here. Now, looking at this empty zone here, this is it here. That's the body. And then the head. So the HTML document is defined into what we call the structure area, the structure tags. These tags actually define the structure of the document. Then we have the header section, this area, which is actually in between the tag called head and head. So that defines the head of the document. Then we have the bodies section, which actually contains the visible content that the user will finally see on this empty white space. So whatever you write as title will actually be, whatever you write in the head is just an extra information to the browser, for the browser to know some additional things it has to do to the web document. And this information is usually called metadata. And you will see that we'll discover over time that there are tags called meta tags. So these tags are used to add this additional information, right? So, and the body area is where we spend a lot of our time, because that's where we'll be writing the content our users will be seeing, like in this case. So now, once we've seen this, maybe it is time for us to go and try writing this same code on our notepad, try to preview it with the browser and see. And I also encourage you to try this same thing. Pause the video, try to type this exact same thing on your text editor, save it, and then preview it with the browser, and let's see. So I'll pick my text out and then start typing, of course, doc type, and we add HTML as the language. Then we do HTML. From the HTML, we can now write the head, and then in the head, I have the title tag. The title tag, we say it should have hello as content, and then we close the title tag. And we don't forget to close the head tag, because we are done writing anything we wanted in the head tag. And then after that, we can move on to the body section of the document, which starts with a tag called body. And then we can close the body tag with the body as well. So once we close the body tag, we can go ahead and close the HTML tag. You can also notice that we are not closing the doc type tag. So it's one of the tags that you don't also need to close. It's just a declarative tag. So that's all. So basically, that's the structure you need to know when you are creating a web document. And inside this body tag, this is where we are supposed to place whatever we wanted to paste. So I can bring this same text back. I have the boot for hello, and then a BR for hi, I'm Zubuli, and we move on. So let me save it, go to my browser, refresh, and nothing serious changed. The same thing, but this time around, if we do the right click and then we try to preview the source code views, and we can see this same structure appear now. So now you might ask me, why do we have to do that if we get the same result, whether with this structure or not, we get the same result? It is important to remember that HTML is a standard. So a standard means we all try to do the same thing, so that whenever a document is produced, everybody can be able to understand it, use it, edit it. And it is important to have standard in such kind of things to avoid confusion, right? So in general, this content area, which is in between the body and body closing tag, is where we spend our time adding so much content. Depending on what our document is all about, we'll add a lot of tags here to signify every single part of our document. And talking about that, something that we usually see in documents is a paragraph. So how do we make a paragraph in HTML? So we use a tag called P. So remember, we use a tag called P, and it opens and closes. Remember, a paragraph needs to start somewhere and stop somewhere. So let me give it a try. We do P, and I do P, and inside I'll be like, this is a very short paragraph, full stop. And I will just copy this same text and multiply it several times like this, and save with Control S. Now I will switch to my browser, refresh it, and then this is my paragraph. So if I copy this same paragraph, for example, and then bring it down and paste it again, then I'm getting two paragraphs of this with the same content. And refresh my browser again, we can see. So the two paragraphs have been indeed separated as paragraphs. So that's the goal of the paragraph tag. There's also another thing we usually do when we write documents, which is the caption. For example, this hello can be hello, welcome to my first website. So we might want this to be, instead of just bold, to be big, like what we call titles. So we can use a particular tag called H1 and make that happen. So I replace the B tag with the H1 tag, and let's see what that does. By refreshing my browser, I can see, wow, that becomes a huge title text. So under the huge title text, we have the hi and so on, right? So far, you've seen how to use a tag called B, an HTML code, how to format some text with that. So let me even change this into, let me use B here and B. So we've seen how we use B tag to make a text bold. We've seen how to use a H1 tag to make a text look like a title or big and bold. And we also saw we could use a tag called P to make a paragraph. What else can we do? There are so many things we see when we are formatting text. For example, we see text that is italic. So in our case, if we take the term a very short, we could emphasize on this very short by making it italic. In that case, we use a tag called I, and we open it, we close it here, and you can see for a tag like italic, if we do not specify where it starts and where it stops, that might be dramatic. And if you want, let's show what it does if I don't close it. So let's assume I don't put the closing tag, and you see, so it made this whole place italic from here to the end of the document. So it is important to stop the italic tag by closing the tag. And if we refresh, the other part of the text will come back, and the short now is bent and looks italic. What else can we do? We have seen that we can decide to go to the next line as well. Imagine this line, this part of the paragraph might need to go to the next line, but not out of the paragraph. So we saw that we could use a BR tag to achieve that. Also, sometimes we make documents and we get lines. We get huge lines. That's a separation line, which we call in HTML horizontal line. So let's assume right under the title we have here, we might want to have a separation line. How do we do that? In HTML, we use a tag called HR and do that. And remember, if you recall what I said here, out of the tags that don't close, I mentioned this tag called HR. So if we refresh our document, we should now see that there is a horizontal line added right under the big caption of our document. Another thing we usually see is an underlinement. When you have a text that is important or you want to call people's attention on that particular thing, you might underline that part of the text. So in our case, let's assume we decide to underline the term very, or let's take something short paragraph exactly to emphasize, to call people's attention on this short paragraph. So in that case, what tag do we use? We use the tag U for underline. And so we close it too. Remember, if we don't close such tags, they might continue to have their effect to the end of the page. So it is important to close them. Then we reload, we can see it has been underlined. So what I am trying to let you understand throughout this exercise is one, that structuring HTML document is more about learning the tags, their names, how they are used, and what they do. So that's your job as a web developer. You just learn the various tags, how to use them, and you must know what they do. In fact, it is what they do that that will encourage you to go for them. And that being said, you will have to go and read a lot about the tags. Yes, you don't have to memorize them. The best way, I always advise my students, the best way to actually keep these tags in mind is through practice. So it is through practice you need to know HTML tags. So at this point, there is something we might realize, we might have noticed. If we look at the tag P, it starts here. Let me break this to the next line and go take this to the next line. It starts here and then closes here. This one too starts here and ends here. But inside this text, we can also see some tag here, which starts here and closes here. Basically, this is what we call nested tags, tags that live inside tags. So basically what it means is like having a paragraph open and then opening another small paragraph inside. You have to close that small paragraph before you close the other paragraph. HTML tags follow this same rule. So when you are nesting HTML tags, you must make sure that every single tag that opens under another tag must close inside it before the parent tag closes. Very important principle to understand. So, and the reason why I'm mentioning this principle is because we have some special tags. One of the common things we see in documents is lists. For example, you have a list of product, a list of students, a list of this, a list of that. So lists are common elements of everyday life documents. So the same thing, people who created HTML thought about special tags that can be used to create lists. But before that, let's look at what lists look like in real life. What are lists? So in general, you see a list which has some bullets and then some element in front of it, and then another bullet, then another list, and then so on. So we have these types of lists. We can also see a list which has a number, let's say 1, 2. So it has a number with a dot and then some content, 2, then some content, and then 3 with some content and so on. So we have these types of lists. Then another type of list we usually see is a list of terms like say, let's say the letter A, or let's say Abbas, or abacus. And then under the abacus, you see some text show up. Then you also see albert or whatever the name. So these types of lists are usually seen in dictionaries where you have a word defined and so on. And this can take various shapes. So the particularity of these types of lists is that they have a caption and then they have the content. They have a caption and their content. So that's what makes these lists very interesting. So how do we implement this type of list in HTML? This one and so it is very simple. This type of list, we call them an unordered list. So an unordered list, unordered list, and ordered list, ordered list. So there's no order in this list, and the order is first, second, third, and so there's no order. So unlike this one, as you could see, it already is ordered list. This one is ordered list, and this one, like I said, it exists usually in dictionaries. So it is called a definition list. So usually we use them when we want to define something. Definition list. Definition list. So how do we place an ordered list, and definition list? There's something we do. We nest tags. So we actually compose one or two tags. We compose tags and then to get them working. So for this one, we use the tag U for unordered and then L for list. So unordered list, and it must be closed because it has to start somewhere and then end somewhere. So we'd say unordered list closes here, and then we close this. For the ordered list, we use the keyword O for ordered and then L for list, and then we close it. And that one too must start somewhere and end somewhere. So we close here and we close here, and we get that. So that's how we get ordered and unordered list. And in these two lists, you can see that the difference is just this O and U. And now for the various elements, which is this particular line and this line and this line, we use a key tag called li, list element, and then we write the text we want to write inside. Let me zoom a bit, and then we close the li, and we do this. We want another one, we do li, then we enter whatever we want to enter, then we close the tag, we do li, and so on. And we can do this as many as we want, as many as the list requires. And here too, for the OL, all we have to do is just bring the keyword li and then bring whatever has to come in, then we close the li. So you can see the only difference basically between the OL and the UL list is just this U and O. And you should keep that in mind and remember. Now, when it comes to the definition list, instead of us to use OL or UL, we rather use something called DL, which stands for definition list. So this is a bit different. So instead of UL or OL, we use DL and bring in the list. Now, for the elements inside, we might be tempted, I wish it was that way, to use li as well and then do whatever we want. That would have been great. But remember, this particular list has something here which we call the caption or the title or the label or the term. So we use a keyword called a key tag called DT inside, and then we write the term, which is in our case abacus, for example, abacus, and then we close that DT tag here to mark the data term. Right now, for the various list element or whatever the definition is, which is this one, for the definition data, we use DD. Let me bring this up a bit. So we use a tag called DD. I will use a different color. dd, and we write down the definition or the text we want inside, and then we close the dd. You are not forced to stop at one dd. You can have as many as possible, because sometimes we might say we want to have list of students, so we want the caption to be list of students or so, something like this. And then we'll have student 1, student 2, student 2. So we can use DL for this kind of list as well. So we do DL. Now for this particular part, which is the caption of the list, now we use DT. And then we write this caption, we close the DT. Now for every single line here, we use DD. Then we close DD here. Then we do the same thing here, DD. Then we close the DD here as well, and so on. So basically, there's no limit to how many DDs you can have, just like we had with the LIs in the UL and OL cases. DD, sorry. So here we go. So basically, these are the 3 types of lists you can see with HTML. And in fact, in real life, these are the main 3 types of lists. And I have to alert you on this. These lists don't always have to appear in line like this. As we go on building websites, you can realize that products like on e-commerce websites are in general list elements, but you see them display in this fashion in general, like this. And so there are still lists. So there will be times where you have different content given to you. You actually have the outcome of the content, and you have to guess, I have to use a list here, and I have to use this type of list to make that happen. And over time, you learn how to change the nature of HTML tags from their basic nature to something advanced. And talking about that, there is one thing you can do to improve HTML tags features, and that's what we call the tags attributes. So the attributes. So basically, the attributes allow you to improve or add some additional information to the tags. One of the tags you will see or you will use often is the A tag. The A tag stands for anchor. Remember, we mentioned that HTML documents are linked, what we call the hyperlinking. So a document like this linked to another document, and another document here linked, and so on. Maybe this one is linked with this one and linked to another one somewhere here, and so. So this link, to establish this link between one page to another page, we use a tag called A. And links must have a text on which we click, and you can see that, for example, you might see sign up on a website, and when you click on that sign up, it will take you to the sign up page or sign in, and so this kind of text are usually generated using the tag A. So it means it has to start somewhere and end somewhere. So we have sign up. So basically to say, okay, if you click here, we should leave this page we are on and go on the page where we have the sign up form. So if we assume this text is in this page, so as soon as the people see the text on this page on click, then it will take them to this page where we have the sign up form like this, and they will sign up. So the thing about the attributes here is that this particular tag, if you write it this way, it will not achieve this function as I'm saying it here. In order to make it achieve that, not only we have to write the tag A, we need to add something which is called the attribute. So I add some space in between here. You can see there's some space here. So that, and then we add h reference, and then we say equals to, and then in bracket we put whatever that reference is or the value, and then we can now close the opening tag. So this bracket is here and this one is here, but you can see they've been spaced by the content here. Now I can bring in my sign up text as like this. So sign up, and then I can close the tag A. And although we are creating an anchor, we must specify where the anchor must redirect us to, must take us to. So that's what this actually says. What is the reference? Where is it that this actually thing will take us to? So you need to specify that here. And obviously it has to be another HTML document. So whatever we write here has to be another HTML document. And the document, all you need to do is to specify the name of the document .html. You don't omit the extension. So you add the name plus the HTML between these quotes. So to have a full anchor tag, we can write it this way: a href equals to, let's say, sign up, right? Sign up. I didn't put space in the name .html, and we close the quote. Then I close the first opening tag. I close the chevron. I close now the greater than sign. Then I write the text. The text here is the text the user will see and click. That's the actually thing they will perceive. Sign up. And then now we close the tag itself with the closing a tag. So in general, this is how you'll be writing links. So this particular thing here is what we call the HTML tags attribute. It is an additional information that comes on to help the tag achieve its work. So most of these tags you will see will have so many of these attributes. So if you are taking the H1 tag we saw, for example, I can add an attribute such as ID, which is a unique identifier of that particular tag. Then I will set that ID in the quotes here. And you can see this common pattern of the attributes, which is they have a name, then they have a value. They have a name, they have a value. So here a name, then value. So the attribute name, and then the attribute value. So you will see this will become very helpful very soon when you start studying CSS. So they'll go on like that. You take another tag, let's say the B tag. We can set some particular class attribute to that tag. So a class is a group of tags that have the same name. So it's, let's say you are in class 1, class 2, KG1, and so if we have some particular tags or a set of tags that belong to a particular group, we group them for a purpose. Let's say we want them to be red, we want them to be green, we want them to be blue, then we can set a class for them to group them inside that class. So it can be KG1, and so, and then the tag continues. So that's how attributes go on. And the attributes too are many. There are many, and some are common to all the tags and some are specific to some tags. An example is if we look at this href attribute, it does not work with the B tag because the B tag is not meant to create the anchor. It does not work with that. So you must know these particular cases through your lessons, your practice, to know that you should avoid some of the attributes on some of the tags. But in general, almost all these attributes go with all the tags. So it is not something that will confuse you that much. So do not worry about that. So we've seen the nesting of the tags through the lists. And now we've seen the HTML attributes a little bit. So to finalize this, I will try to practice this a little bit in our code. So let me add some few things here. Adding the first thing, what did we do? The list. So let's do the list a little bit. So here I'll add a list of things to be done. So I'll add an ordered list UL, and then add another UL. I'll close the UL, then I'll come and create the LI inside, and I will say first element, and I'll close the LI, not IL, LI. Then I will do the same thing with the second element, and then I'll close the element, and then say another element without closing, of course, and then third element, and then I can close the tag. So by doing that, if I go and refresh our browser now, we should see the update applied to our tag. So we can see that list showing up. So let me add now the ordered list. So we said we use the OL tag for ordered list. I'll close it somewhere so that I don't forget. It's good to have that habit. Then inside I'll add all the LI. So for time purposes, let me just copy this text and paste it inside here. Now if we refresh, we should see that this list is indeed ordered. Now let me add the DL list, and we'll say definition list, come back, close definition list, and then inside I will set a term for the definition term, and this is going to be list of fruits, and then we close the data term, or let me even define just the abacus, and then I'll come back and create a DD, and this is the definition. So this is the definition of an abacus, and so much to come. So I'll close the DD, and then I am good to go. So if I refresh, I should see the term here and the definition. And since we are talking about nesting tags, this does not prevent you, for example, from adding another tag here. Let's say a B tag to make it bold, and then I'll close that B tag here. And when I refresh, you see, so not only it is a definition list, I can also nest some other tags to improve the behavior. So as part of improving the tags functions, not only we can nest them to create more complex structures, we can also use attributes to improve how they work. So this brings us to the end of this lesson today, where we've seen HTML, what it is. So we've learned to create HTML documents. Basically, after creating a folder, we created a document, we changed the extension of the document, and then we saw the result through our browser. And then we went back to learn HTML tags, specifically the H tag, P tag, B tag, I tag, BR and HR tags. Then we learned some attributes, right? We learned how to add some attributes to some tags. So as time goes, we'll continue to discover more tags in our practice. So thank you so much for watching this one again. Please take your time, watch it over and again, and try to understand. Take your quizzes seriously, and your assignment is on its way coming to you. Thank you, and see you tomorrow.